Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Mahabharata fascinating character series. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. So today we'll be discussing a very interesting character from Mahabharata, and that is Vidura. Vidura is a well known personality in Mahabharata. So, we'll be discussing the life of Vidura, what are the teachings of Vidura, and we'll see how Vidura's life is very full of challenges, but still, how he always continues to be on the path of virtue, dharma, guiding Dhritarashtra. So many facets of Vidura we'll see today. So Vidura, he was born through a maid servant and Vyasdev. So we know the story. We have discussed it earlier also that when Vichitra Veer was dead, then there was nobody to beget the children and the heir of the dynasty of Kaurava Vamsha was there was nobody. There was no heir to the dynasty. So Satyavati, she requested Vyasdev. Vyasdev was the son of Satyavati, which she got even before her marriage to uh, Shantanu. And before her marriage, she begot Vyasadev through Parashar Muni. So Satyavati, she called her son Vyasdev and she requested him to beget children through Ambika and Ambalika. And we know how Ambika and Ambalika, because they were expecting Bhishma, but when they saw a great sage, and generally because sages they stay in forest, so Vyasdev was not very good, handsome looking personality. He was having a very long hair, jata, wearing a deer skin, not so attractive in his looks. So Satyavati, so Ambika and Ambalika, they begot children from Vyasdev. They begot so, but Ambika closed her eyes and Ambalika fainted. She became pale actually, didn't faint, she became pale. So, as a result, Dhritarashtra was born who was blind, and Pandu he had a pale complexion. Satyavati she requested Vyasdev to beget one more child, and that this time Ambika and Ambalika they didn't agree. They thought we cannot unite with this sage again. So they sent their maid servant, and this maid servant, her name was Shudri. So this maid servant, because she had such awe and reverence for Vyasdev, a great sage, she served him very nicely. She was very respectful in her attitude towards Vyasdev, and she made him very comfortable. And in this consciousness, in such a respectful and wonderful consciousness, she got a child from Vyasdev. And as a result of that, a great personality, Vidura, was born. So we have to understand that serving great souls with right attitude is a right way to receive their blessings. As we can see in this case, because this seemingly low caste woman, she was not a Kshatriya lady, she was not from a royal family, she was just a servant, maid servant. But because she served Vyasdev very nicely, she got such a great son. In our spiritual life also, serving devotees, serving Vaishnavas is a very, very important limb. Actually, spiritual life is completely different from material life. When we come to spiritual life, we should learn to see things from a spiritual perspective. In a material life, if we are endeavoring enough, if we have the skills and expertise, and if we have the capabilities, then we can be successful. And although there are many factors involved, but in the material life, if we are endeavoring enough, then people think, oh, we'll get success. Although there are many factors involved, you know as Bhagavad Gita says, there are 5 factors involved in any action: adhishthana, karta, karna, cheshta, and daiva. Adhishtan means the place where the activity is happening. That should also be proper. The person is also important, and the instruments involved in the action is also important. The endeavor, cheshta, is also very important. But at the same time, the 5th factor, daiva. Daiva means the supernatural control. That is also equally important. But many times people in the outside world, they forget these other factors. They think if we just endeavor properly, we will get result. But in the spiritual life, it is very, very important to understand that apart from our endeavor to advance in spiritual life, mercy of the devotees, mercy of the Lord is very, very important. It is equally important. In fact, Krishna tells that he is pleased when somebody serves his devotees. He is pleased more. If somebody, Krishna is telling to Arjuna in one of the places, if somebody tells that, he's my devotee, actually he's not my devotee. Krishna is telling to Arjuna. But if somebody tells that he is devotee of my devotee, that person is actually my devotee. So therefore, in spiritual life, serving great souls, great personalities is very, very important. This lady, Shudri, she gave birth. She pleased Vyasdev, and that's how she gave birth to such a wonderful son like Vidura. If we please devotees by our service, then good qualities, wonderful devotion will take birth in our heart. So therefore, it is very, very important. In our spiritual life, there are 3 things which are important: chanting the names of the Lord, serving the devotees, and helping the innocent people. All these 3 are equally important. And we can see in this story how, because this lady, she served Vyasdev properly, she got such a wonderful son. So Vidura, he was, because Vyasdev, he had a great oceanic wisdom. He was embodiment of wisdom. He is actually the literary incarnation of Krishna. He is embodiment of wisdom, and that wisdom manifested in Vidura in an extraordinary way. Wonderfully, it manifested. And in Mahabharata, Vidura is recognized, as a very wise character, next only after Krishna. Therefore, all the Pandavas, they would take counsel from Krishna and from Vidura because of his extraordinary wisdom. So in Mahabharata, there are many conversations which happen between Dhritarashtra and Vidura, because Vidura, he keeps giving guidance and counsel to Dhritarashtra in many places in Mahabharata. All these instructions All these advices of Vidura, they are compiled as Vidur Niti. And actually, Vidur Niti, in many ways, it was a precursor for Chanakya Niti. So there are various types of Niti. Niti means the instructions on morality. Vidura's instructions on morality. That is called Vidur Niti. So there are various types of Niti which are described in the scriptures. One is Brihaspati Niti. Brihaspati Niti means good end, good means. I want to do something good, and for that I will follow the right means. And Yudhishthir, he always followed this Brihaspati Niti. I want good results, and for that I will follow the right path. Brihaspati Niti. There is something called Shukra Niti. Shukra Niti means good end, any means is okay, whether good or bad. If the end is good, don't mind if I have to follow a wrong path also. Krishna followed this niti sometimes. We see in the case of Karna, we saw discussed how Krishna told Arjuna, you kill him. He was on the ground, but still the principle is shatho shatyam. You know. So Lord, when when he follows this niti, the end result is always good, dharmic. And there is a third niti, kanik niti. Kanik niti means any end. You know, I want to do this. I don't care it is right or wrong, and I am ready to follow anything. Shakuni followed this niti, kanik niti. In our lives, as far as possible, we should try to follow this Brihaspati niti. Good means good end. And if situations arise, we may have to take help of this Shukraniti also, because when we are dealing with people of the world, we cannot just follow this always. People will exploit us. So the principle of Shatho Shatyam, if the person in front is cunning, we have to deal with him in a cunning way. So therefore, as far as possible, we should try to follow this principle of Brihaspati Niti. Try to follow the righteous path and righteous end. And of course, if we stick to this principle, then Krishna gives the intelligence. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Krishna says, I give the intelligence to a person who is on the path of spirituality, on the path of dharma, how to come close to him. It is very important to understand that whatever dharmic religious principles we are following in our life, they should bring us close to Krishna. They should bring us close to spiritual life. As Bhagavatam describes very wonderfully, one verse, shloka in Mahabharata, in Bhagavatam says, Nehayat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirthapada sevaya jivannapi mritopisa. So this beautiful verse says, if your actions are not taking you towards religious duties, if the religious principles are not taking you towards, becoming attached to the principles of virtue and becoming detached from the worldly things, dharma should ultimately make one close to God. And if your renunciation is not bringing you close to devotional service, then it is all a waste. So therefore, Vidura, he spoke this Vidura Niti, and he had an extraordinary wisdom, and he was a very, very wonderful friend, extraordinary friend. He would always seek well-being of Dhritarashtra. Although Dhritarashtra never heard the advice properly, he would refuse the advice of Vidura. But still, Vidura is an example, very brilliant example, how one should continue to give good advice even if it is not followed, although it is very, very difficult. But Vidura is a person of perseverance. He is a person who never gives up. And we'll see again and again it comes in Mahabharata. Many of the stories of Mahabharata, they have a connection with previous lives incident. Who was Vidura? Mahabharata and Bhagavatam describes who was Vidura in the past life. Vidura was Yamraj. Yamraj is a person who gives the decision of our actions after we leave this world. What is the punishment or reward we are supposed to get based on our whole life's activities and our previous life's activities? Vidura, Yamraj, he decides. So once it so happened that he gave an excessive punishment to a sage, and because of that, he was cursed by that sage to take birth in a low family. But he still retained the wisdom. Imraj is one of the very great personality. He's called a Mahajan. Who are these Mahajans? Mahajans are those who are exemplary in their dharma and exemplary in their devotion. So Yamraj is one of the 12 personalities who are very, very devoted to the Lord and who are very dharmic, religious, always speaking the principles of religion, following those principles properly. So one day there was a sage called Mandavya, and he was doing meditation in his ashram. He was absorbed with his eyes closed. He was sitting, meditating on the Lord. He was a great sage. There was a thief who had stolen something and he was running because the king's soldiers were following him. So this soldier, he entered this hermitage and he saw this great sage in meditation. So he hid in his ashram hermitage. The soldiers came searching for this thief, and in this hermitage they found this thief, and they thought that this sage is also responsible for hiding this thief. So they arrested the sage also. And the in charge, he gave even punishment. He gave death sentence to the sage also because he thought the sage is also equally responsible. Somehow the news, he was about to be pierced, he gave a punishment that he should be pierced by swords and lances to death. Somehow the news went to the king, and king, he came to know that the great sage is going to get persecuted. He came running. Somehow he stopped that persecution, begged forgiveness, and Mandavya Rishi, he forgave that king because he understood that this is not his fault. The circumstances were in this way, but he wanted to find the cause, and he was a great sage. He went directly to Yamraj because Yamraj is the one who gives punishments and rewards according to our actions. So he went to Yamraj and asked, what was my fault? Why I was prosecuted and humiliated and I was about to be, killed? Yamraj told that when you were a small child, as a plaything, you pierced an ant and the ant died. You pierced the ant with a sharp object. So therefore you had to suffer the punishment because you killed the ant, you had to suffer this. But because you did it when you were a small child, you were ignorant of the law, so therefore you did not have to suffer the punishment of death. Mandavya, when he heard this, he was very angry. He became so very angry. He said, "How can you do this? This is not the right way." The child does not know whether this is right or wrong. His intelligence is not properly developed. He does not know the discrimination. How can you punish a child for this very innocent, act of, piercing an ant? The punishment of being criticized and arrested, and I was about to be killed, and I had to suffer all the humiliation from the soldiers. This was much more than what I did. The reaction which you have given is very, very disproportionate. And because you have given a disproportionate reaction, you are not worthy of giving judgment. So, therefore, I curse you that you will be born among those whom you are supposed to judge. Because Yamaraj only gives judgment for human beings. Animals, they never break the laws of nature. Therefore, they are not to be judged. They are just following the laws of nature, you know, helplessly. They cannot even rebel. We humans, we have been given a very wonderful intelligence. Therefore, we can decide to do right or wrong. Therefore, we are punished and rewarded for our bad and good deeds. So Mandavya, he said, you will take birth as a human, and you will not take birth in a high family. You will take birth in a low family. You won't be respected. As a result of that, Yamraj, he was born as a son of a maid servant, a very simple maid servant, Vidura. So now Yamraj was not there. So who will take care of the post? So one another personality called Aryama, he became the in charge of the Yamraj's post in his absence. Somebody may think, how can Yamraj commit a mistake? We always hear that humans commit mistake, human system has faults, but God's system has no faults. But we should understand that Devatas, they are also living entities. And because they are living entities, they also have some faults. So therefore, they also commit mistakes. Just like we hear the story of Indra. Indra, he wanted to drown the whole Vrindavan by showering rains, torrents of rains, and then Govardhan Leela happened. So therefore, Devatas may be powerful, they may be intelligent, much, much more intelligent than any of the humans, but still, because they are living beings, so therefore they also commit mistakes. Only Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is without any fault. Otherwise, everybody in this world makes mistakes. Even Devatas, they commit mistakes. But Krishna makes sure, because he is the overall supervisor, in charge, controller, he makes sure that in the ultimate analysis, nobody gets a disproportionate reaction. He makes sure. So, therefore, we have to understand that many times what we get in our life may seem very disproportionate. I didn't do anything wrong. I was doing good for everybody. Yamraj may also say, Arey, I was giving a judgment based on what is the common phenomena. What is the law? Why I had to suffer all this? Why I was cursed? But we have to understand that any disproportionate thing which is happening in our life, which we may not be able to understand, it is because of some of our past deeds. And because many times people, they cannot understand why bad things are happening in their lives, they lose faith in God because they can't see the connection. We know the famous story of Darwin, the propounder of the theory of evolution. He was a priest in the church. He was a believer of God, but because his son died of a disease at a very young age. Therefore, he started questioning the existence of God. And then he became so very against. He decided, I'll prove to the whole world that there is no God. That is the consequence of faithlessness. So, therefore, how to develop that faith, how to always understand things from a proper perspective. For that, we need three things: we need saintly people, we need scriptures, and we need a teacher, guru, sadhu, and shastra. We have to develop a vision of scriptures. Just like if people they have a defective vision, they wear glasses. If somebody is wearing red colored glass, everything will appear red. Similarly, we have to understand, if we want to see things in right perspective, we have to learn to wear the glasses of scriptures every time we see the world. I read something, and that is called Shastra Chakshu. Shastra Chakshu means to see things from the eyes of scriptures. I read something very nice. It was written on a wall somewhere in the South Bombay. Real eyes realize real lies. Very interesting statement. Real eyes. If you have a real vision, then you will realize what are the real lies of the world. This is very, very important. And we will understand, we'll get this real eyes when we read scriptures, when we associate with saintly people, when we learn from them, then we will realize what are the real lies of the world. In this world, there is so much of propaganda which is going on about how we can be enjoying always, we can be happy. All the advertisements, all the billboards, all the movies, everything is just painting us such a wonderful picture that this world is so great. Just you do this, you'll be happy. Every movie ends with and they lived happily ever after. Nobody shows what happens after that. you know so therefore it is very important when we learn to see the world from the eyes of scriptures, then we will realize what are the real lies of the world. To understand the scriptures, we have to take shelter, we have to live a life of goodness, mode of goodness. What is mode of goodness? In simple words, mode of goodness means to live according to the laws of nature, how the nature has made this body, use it in a proper way. This is a general observation. If we get some gadget or a vehicle, if we use it properly according to the instructions of the manufacturer, the car or the gadget will go on for a long time. If we abuse, then it will get spoiled very quickly. Similarly, if we learn to live a life of mode of goodness, that's what Bhagavad Gita Krishna says. Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Yogo bhavati dukkha. That is a secret of living a happy life. Yukta ahar, yukta vihar, yukta cheshta, and yukta karma. Yukta means it comes from the word yuja, which comes from the word yoga. So if we live our life based on the principles which are laid down by God, laid down by Krishna, then we will develop a right type of intelligence to see things in the world with proper wisdom. And therefore, Vidura, you know, he when Yamraj became Vidura, he knew, okay, there must be something which I had done in the past. That's why I'm suffering. going through all this. So Vidura, he had a great wisdom. And Bhishma, he trained all the three sons, Pandu, Dhritarashtra, and Vidura. Equally, he trained all of them. And Satyavati once she asked Bhishma, "What are the virtues of all these three sons?" Bhishma, he glorified all of them. He said, Pandu, he is very wonderful and expert in his military prowess. That's why we heard previously also that when Pandu he went and he conquered the entire world. He was very powerful military prowess. He said Dhritarashtra personally he has a very powerful body. And that's why we hear that after all the Kauravas were killed and Duryodhan was killed by Bhima, Dhritarashtra he had such anguish. Because all his sons were killed by Bhima. He had taken a vow, Bhima had taken a vow that I'll kill all the 100 Kauravas. So after all these Kauravas were killed, Dhritarashtra he just called Bhima and he wanted to embrace Bhima. But his intention was he wanted to crush Bhima. But somehow by intervention of Krishna, Bhima was saved. So Dhritarashtra was very powerful personally, physically. And then he said, Vidura, he has a great wisdom. Although he was not born in a royal family because he was born from a maid servant, so he was not entitled to become the king. He was not having any, kingly opulence, kingly responsibility. Although he was given all the opulence of a royal person, but he was not entitled to become the king. But he acted as the prime minister, and whenever Dhritarashtra needed an advice, Vidura would give wonderful advice. And when Pandu he left the kingdom and retired for the forest, he wanted to cultivate spiritual uh, wisdom, come close to Krishna. That time Dhritarashtra, he became the king. And even before that, when Dhritarashtra, because he was blind, although he was elder and he wanted to become the king, but because he was blind, so Vidura, he told very strongly that, oh, Dhritarashtra is very strong, but he is blind, so therefore he cannot become the king. Dhritarashtra, although he felt so very bad, but he consented and he blessed Pandu, okay, you can become the king. But then after Pandu retired and Dhritarashtra became the king, practically Vidura was the one who was ruling, because Dhritarashtra was blind and Vidura was ruling the kingdom with the help of Bhishma. Because Duryodhan was also very small that time and Dhritarashtra was blind. So Vidura was the one who was taking care of the affairs of the kingdom. He would guide Dhritarashtra in all the political affairs also. And when Pandavas they returned to Hastinapur after Pandu died, Vidura he had a natural affection for Pandavas. Especially he had affection for Yudhishthir, because Yudhishthir was a son of Dharma. Dharma is Yamaraj, and Vidura is an expansion of Yamaraj. He is the same Yamaraj. So therefore, Vidura had a great affection for Yudhishthir. Both were very learned in the scriptures and were very dharmically inclined. So therefore, Vidura would give lots of time to Yudhishthir. Vidura was such a wonderful personality. He always wanted to good for the entire dynasty. It was not that because Kauravas were not behaving properly, he was partial to Pandavas. No, he wanted to help Kauravas also and Pandavas equally. But Vidura, because he was just a prime minister, his role was just to give a good advice, nothing more than that. And he was reduced to powerlessness, because Dhritarashtra, he would not accept the advice of Vidura. He would hear the advice very nicely, but he would not accept, he would not implement. So if the king does not take the advice, then what can the minister do? If a good advice is neglected, then the person who neglects the advice suffers more than the person who gives the advice. Although if we are giving good advice to somebody, we uh, expect that the person will follow it. But if the person is not following, that person suffers more. So it is said that to profit from a good advice requires more wisdom than to give it. Very interesting statement. Because if we don't accept the good advice, if we don't have the intelligence to implement the good advice, then all the good advice will not help us. So therefore it requires more wisdom to implement and follow a good advice. Dhritarashtra, he would listen to the advice of Vidura again and again, and then sometime he would show some influence. But then after Vidura would go, then Duryodhan would come and he would influence Dhritarashtra emotionally, because Dhritarashtra was so very emotionally attached to his son. He knew that my son is on the path of irreligion. And again, and more than once, he himself said that I know Duryodhan is wrong, but still, and I know what is right, but still I cannot follow it. So Duryodhan would manipulate him, and because he was weak personally, Dhritarashtra, he was not able to follow the good advice. Duryodhan, he was wicked, and therefore he was trying his best to manipulate the weak-hearted Dhritarashtra. So weak-heartedness, we have to understand, if somebody is weak-hearted, weak-heartedness means I know this is right, but still I am not able to do it. This happens many times with many of us. I know this is right, this is supposed to be done, but still I am not able to do it. Why this happens? This is very, very challenging. You know, I know this is right, but still somehow I am not able to do it. That's what Arjuna is telling to Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. He's asking a question, oh Krishna, why does a person engage in sinful activity even though he is unwilling to do it? अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलाद् इव नियोजितः. O Krishna, why does a person engage in sinful activity? पापं चरति. क्यों कोई व्यक्ति पाप करता है? अनिच्छन, इच्छा ना होते हुए भी. He is unwilling, but still he is forced to do it. I know this is wrong. I know this is not proper, irreligious, sinful, but still I cannot stop doing it. Why? Krishna replies, weak heartedness is a sign of attachment to enjoy things in the world at any cost. That is the reason of weak heartedness. काम एष क्रोध एष रजोगुण समुद्भवः महाशनो महापाप्मा विद्येन मिह वैरिणम्. In one verse, Krishna very enigmatically encapsulates the whole reason of weak-heartedness. The desire to enjoy at any cost, whether good or bad. The more we compromise on our values, the more we compromise on our virtues, on our dharmic conduct to enjoy things of the world, the more we become weak. This is a vicious cycle. If we fall for sense gratification, for getting things of the world at any cost, the more the propensity to do it will increase. It is a cycle. The proclivity to engage in sinful actions will increase more and more if we, you know, engage in sinful activities again and again. That's what Bhagavatam also describes. Shukdev Goswami, he described how people they are suffering in hellish planets because of their sins. Parikshit Maharaj asks, why does a person engage in sinful activity? And even do they know that this is wrong, still they do it. And then they do some atonement also, prayaschitta, but it is like elephant bathing. Elephant goes, takes bath very nicely, again comes back and puts the dirt all over his body. What is the use of such type of bathing? People, they think I'll do something sinful and I'll do some prayashchitta, I'll give some donation, I'll do something, religious activity, and that's how I'll be purified. But the propensity to do sinful things do not go. The weak heartedness does not go. Again, a person engages in sinful activity. The reason is we are engaging in sense gratification more and more, and we are not taking shelter of the spiritual knowledge. People have misconception that things of the world will give happiness, but actually things of the world they give pain many times. Vidura, when he saw that his instructions are not being followed, but still he continued. For a virtuous person, if his instructions are not followed, it is very, very difficult to continue, you know. But Vidura continued. That is the personality of Vidura. He did not give up. And then he saw that Dhritarashtra and Kauravas, they were planning. They were planning such vicious means, ways to kill Pandavas. For a person who is virtuous, to see wrong happening is extremely difficult. He cannot stay there. And Vidura could have walked away any time, but he continued. He continued to stay just to help Dhritarashtra. Because personally, we'll discuss about Dhritarashtra more in our future sessions. But personally, Dhritarashtra is not wicked at heart. He is a weak hearted person. That's why Duryodhan keeps manipulating him. Therefore, Vidura, he wanted to help Dhritarashtra, bring him out of this, and that's why he continued to stay there. And then Dhritarashtra he sent Pandavas to Varnavarta. Varnavarta was a place where uh, Duryodhan and Shakuni and all the other allies they had made a palace of a very combustible material, lac, and they wanted to burn Pandavas alive. So, and Duryodhan convinced Dhritarashtra for this also. Dhritarashtra, he told Pandavas, you go to Varnavarat and stay there nicely. Vidura, he understood there is some conspiracy going on. He sent his spies and he came to know everything. He went to Yudhishthir before they were going. They were about to leave. Vidura went to Yudhishthir and he spoke in a very enigmatic way because he knew that the spies of Duryodhan are always around. So them, he didn't want Duryodhan to know that Vidura is helping. He's helping Pandavas. So he spoke in such an enigmatic way which nobody could understand. He said, one who knows that there are ways to kill without piercing with weapons, he will stay protected. Very enigmatic language he's speaking. He says, forest fire which burns the forest cannot burn the snakes which go underground. and therefore that person will stay protected. The person who controls his senses and he acts calmly and diligently, he'll be protected. All this very wonderful language he's speaking. Kunti was also there, other Pandavas were there. They didn't understand, but Yudhishthir understood. And Yudhishthir, he decoded the message. And then he told that we are being sent to this place, Varnavarth. There is a danger of fire. And we have to dig a tunnel to escape. So these Pandavas, they went to stay in Varnavarth. For 1 year, they were there. When they reached that palace, a person came and he told the same message as was told by Vidura. And Yudhishthir understood that he is the Vidura's man. He told, Vidura has sent me to dig a tunnel for you. I'll dig a tunnel by which you can escape. Yudhishthir, Duryodhan, he had appointed a person called Virochan. Sorry, Purochan. You know, this Purochan, he was appointed by Duryodhan to set fire to the entire palace. And he was waiting for an opportune moment because he wanted some time to pass so that nobody uh, has any doubt or any suspicion that this is done by Duryodhan. So beforehand only, Pandavas, they set fire to the house, and in that fire, this person Purochan also was killed. And to by some inconceivable arrangement, there was a lady who had come along with 5 sons, and he was from a lower caste, and they would stay in the forest. They were bheels. So they had come and they were staying in the palace that night, and the lady will along with the 5 sons, they were burned to ashes. So everybody thought that, oh, Pandavas were burnt in that fire. But Pandavas, they had escaped and they came out at a safe place. And they walked some distance. They found a person waiting in a boat near the river. That person spoke the same message. And he helped Pandavas to go to a safe place. So Vidura was always alert to protect the Pandavas, to save the Pandavas from vicious acts of Duryodhan. So therefore, a person who is virtuous, who is dharmic, he likes to help other people who are dharmic, who are virtuous. This is how dharma is protected. This is how the virtue is protected. And if we help those who are trying to practice the principles of religion, then by the grace of the Lord, we will also be benefited. Then, if that is the benefit of helping a dharmic person, what is the benefit of helping a devotee of the Lord? Because many times people may be dharmic, but they may not be devoted to Krishna. But ultimate dharma is to serve Krishna. Dharma sonashtita pumsam vishwaksena kathasuya nautpadiye ratim yadi shrama evahi kevalam. Bhagavatam describes. What is actual dharma? Dharma of every living entity is to serve the Supreme Lord. Dharma of everyone is to develop a attraction to hear about the pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, the dharma is just a waste of labor, practice of dharma. Shrama eva hi kevalam. In the ultimate sense, all our dharmic duties should bring us close to Krishna, close to God. So Vidura, he was helping the devotees of the Lord. Pandavas were such great devotees. And therefore, Krishna himself says that devotees are more dear to me than even my life. That's how Krishna says. I love my devotees even more than my life. He says, I become controlled by my devotees' love. I become dependent on my devotees. Aham bhakta paradhino nahi aswatantra iva dvijaha. I am bhakta paradhin. Paradhin means dependent. So devotees are so very dear to Lord, and when we help the devotees, serve the devotees, then Krishna bestows his blessings on us. So Vidura, he was trying his best to help Pandavas, so making sure that they are safe. And Vidura, he was tireless in his attempts to give good counsel to Dhritarashtra. But at the same time, he was very alert to protect the Pandavas. And by his intervention, ultimately, Pandavas were saved. And then Vidura, he guided, he sent his men so that Pandavas could go to a safe place. And there they stayed for some time. And we discussed that during that period, they were staying as Brahmanas, and that time they were uh, uh, Arjuna married Draupadi, and ultimately they came back. They came back with Draupadi. When Dhritarashtra he heard that Pandavas are alive, he was not so happy because he wanted his sons to become the king. He wanted Duryodhan to become the king. And therefore, when he saw that, oh, now Pandavas have come back and now they will have to, be given the kingdom, because he knew that Pandavas are righteous, they are the right people to become the kings. The whole kingdom was blaming Kauravas, blaming Dhritarashtra, Duryodhan, even Bhishma, that you all, you know, plotted and you all burnt the Pandavas. So Bhishma he went and told Dhritarashtra that you please give the kingdom to Pandavas, make Yudhishthir Maharaj the king. So Dhritarashtra he was not so happy, but externally he made a show of becoming so very happy. But Vidura was the one who actually welcomed them. He made nice arrangements for the Pandavas to stay so that they are comfortable. And Dhritarashtra, and then we know the story that how Pandavas they were given half of the kingdom, which was a barren land. It was called as Khandav Prastha, and there by the you know power of the Pandavas and the intervention of Krishna, they made a huge wonderful city of Indraprastha. And then the wonderful palace was made by the help of the demon Maya. And then Duryodhan, when he saw the opulence of Pandavas, he became so very envious. He told Dhritarashtra his plan of gambling. And we have heard about gambling in detail in the discussion about Draupadi. Dhritarashtra was superior, he was elder, so he sent Vidura to call Pandavas for gambling match. Vidura, it was intolerable for him because he knew that this is wrong. This is all plotted by Duryodhan, but still he had to do it. And when Vidura he reached the place, and Yudhishthir Maharaj he saw the very dismayed and sorrowful face of Vidura, he understood that there is some wrong, and he understood that this is all this may be a plot, but still, because he had taken a vow to follow the instructions and orders of elders, he relented, agreed, although unwilling, but still he agreed. And then in the gambling match, we have discussed how it was so very sinful, very sinfully. Duryodhan, he with the help of Shakuni, he took away everything of the Pandavas. And as the gambling progressed, Vidura, he was repeatedly warning Kauravas. He was telling from the scriptures various stories how greed is so very dangerous. And he told a story. He told that a person who climbs a high mountain thinking that he will get something on the top, he'll get some wealth or get some honey, he is so very absorbed in looking high that he forgets to see down, and as a result he falls into a ditch and dies. He says similarly, Duryodhan, he is so very obsessed with the desire to get the kingdom, he is not able to see the dangers of gambling. And therefore, what he is doing, he is cheating Pandavas. It is like putting snakes and cobras in his own cloth. By creating enmity with the Pandavas, he is sentencing himself to destruction. He will himself be destroyed and he'll die. Vidura continued giving right instructions to Dhritarashtra. He said, please stop Duryodhan. He will, he is inviting his own destructions. He vehemently, very strongly, he protested. But Dhritarashtra remained silent. And things moved on. Duryodhan and Karna and Shalya, they replied back strongly, insulted Vidura. And then in the end, ultimately, because of the strong speech of Vidura, Dhritarashtra gave back the kingdom to the Pandavas. But again, because of the request of Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra again he sent a message, and again the Pandavas came back, and again they lost everything. Second time now they were going to forest, and Vidura, he was so very sad because of the whole thing. He tried his best to protect the Pandavas, but he could not do anything because he had no powers. And therefore, when the Pandavas they were going in the forest, first time when they went in the forest, Kunti was there. That time she was relatively young, but this time she was old. So Vidura, he requested Yudhishthir that, oh Yudhishthir, please allow Kunti Maharani to stay with me because she'll not be able to endure the troubles and the pains and sufferings in the forest. It is much more austere for her. So please allow her to stay with me in our house. And Yudhishthir, he agreed. And that's how Kunti, although she was so very devastated, but Vidura, he consoled her. And Bhishma, he had married Vidura to a Yadav girl called Sulabha. She was also a very great, devoted, dharmic lady. So Sulabha became friends with Kunti, and for 13 years, Kunti was staying with them. And during this period, when Kunti was so very sad, devastated, it was Vidura who helped, consoled Kunti along with his wife. So that is how the story of the Vidura. It will continue. We'll continue next time. We'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Vidhur is a personality, a devotee who has served the Pandavas, the Kauravas, everybody, and a very great, like you said yourself, a Mahajan, but has never got that recognition in the common people. Not many people know how great a devotee to the extent he was a Mahajan, because as you said, that he was perfect in performing his dharma and in his devotion, both perfect balance. One question which is coming to my mind at this point of time is that you mentioned Yamraj, Vidur being Yamraj, and But even Yudhishthir Maharaj is uh, an incarnation of Yamraj. So how does that? How do we understand that, Prabhuji?
Yeah. So Yudhishthir, he is a son of Yamraj. He is not the incarnation. He is a son of Yamraj. Dharma. So Kunti, we have heard the story about Kunti also. That Kunti, she got a benediction from Durvasa, so she could call any devata, and she begot children from various devatas. So Yudhishthir, he was the son of Dharma. So therefore, a father, the son gets lots of qualities from father also. So because Dharma, Yamraj is Dharma personified, he is Dharma also. He is called Dharmaraj also. So Yudhishthir Maharaj, he also acquired such wonderful dharmic qualities. So there is no contradiction, because Yudhishthir is son of Dharmaraj, and Vidura is Dharmaraj or Yamaraj, expansion, or he is himself Yamraj. So that's how we can understand these things. Many times we have to understand scriptures based on not just current point of view, because in this world, when people they see things, they analyze things from this point of view, and many times it doesn't make sense that why I'm suffering in this way. But when we see things from a you know long term perspective, then we understand the type of thoughts we have in this body, the type of uh, nature which we have. We can understand what actions we have performed in the past life. As it is said, we are dressed by and we are dressed for our desires. We are dressed by our desires means whatever desires we had in the past, we get a particular nature, we get a particular body according to that. And we are dressed for our desires. And whatever desires we cultivate, we get a body according to that. So, seeing our present body, we can understand what was our past life, and seeing our current condition, we can also understand what will be our future life. Because if we continue to follow a certain type of activities, we'll get a body according to that. So therefore, Dharmaraj, Yamraj, he was cursed, but because he had such a wonderful background, he was a Mahajan, he continued to retain all his dharmic qualities. So that is the proper understanding. Okay. So there is a question. You spoke of weak heartedness. Is it our karma that also that makes us do things which we know are wrong, but yet we do it? Yes, there are many factors involved. Our swabhava, our psychophysical nature, is made up of two things: the past life activities and current life conditionings. These two factors, they make our nature. The type of upbringing we have in this life make a particular type of mindset. you know. And the type of activities which we have done in the past, they have also a very strong influence. So both are equally responsible. So weak heartedness is, because we have done something in the past, and that's why we are inclined towards doing a particular thing. That is called kuta in Sanskrit. Kuta means the proclivity to do a wrong thing. That happens because we have done it in the past, and we have lived a particular type of life in this life. Particular surroundings, particular conditionings we have developed in this life. So that these two things, they make our swabhav or psychophysical nature. So many times what we have done in the past, we cannot change. So far whatever we have done, we cannot change. But what we can do now, that is in our hand. So of course all these things will affect us. But if we make a decision, if we decide to follow the right path, then we can actually start practicing. Of course, it will be difficult. The person who is already a athlete, for him, to again start, if he undergoes some, problems and he cannot run, but when he comes back to normal, for him to start running is very easy. But a person who has never done it, for him to start running and compete, it is very difficult. But there is no loss. Even if you start, better late than never. So even if we think that, oh, I have tried many times, but still my heart is so very weak, I am not able to do it, I am not able to be determined. So better give up all these things. You know, that's what mind says many times. Okay, I'm not able to do it, let's give it up. But that is not the solution. The end result is we'll be the losers. We'll continue to, suffer. So therefore, although it is our karma, past life karma, current life's conditionings, which are making our nature, but still we can come out of it. We can overcome it to a certain extent. There are two things again. There is a swabhav and there is a vasana. The vasana means our lower nature. So this weak heartedness is basically because of our lower nature. And the swabhav is basically what is our, constitutional nature, based on, our upbringing. Our lower nature can be purified. If somebody becomes angry, he cannot say, oh, it is my nature, it is my nature to become angry. No, you have to get purified of that lower nature. Some people, they are inclined towards you know literary things. They are like very studious, scholarly, intelligent thinkers. Some people, they are administrators, managers. Some people, they are so very interested in money. When they see money, they get excited. Numbers. And some people, they are humble, menial. They want to assist others. These are the natures. You cannot change these natures. But if somebody is angry, somebody is greedy, lusty, envious, these natures can be purified. So this weak heartedness is basically a lower nature which can be purified. The activities, the wrong activities which we have done in the past life affect us, make our heart weak, but we can overcome it. That's why Krishna says, that's why, the scriptures are there, that's why the saintly people keep guiding us. Okay, so that's how we have to understand these things. Okay, so
So, Prabhuji, what I understood was that Vasna, the anarthas, and they can
yeah,
be overcome. But
yeah,
Swabhav is our nature, which can be utilized in Krishna's service.
correct, correct. So bhav is our psychophysical nature, right?
So, Prabhuji, one more question was coming Vidur was surrounded by negativity, and he could have easily got illusioned or disillusioned, or he could have walked out, to protect
Yeah,
himself from this negative association which he had. He was constantly associating with the most weak hearted and completely, drowned in vasna, basically, in one way, like completely greedy and Dhritarashtra. So usually, whomever we associate with, we take up that person's qualities. But over here, we see both of them did not change. Like both remained.
correct.
Vidur remained who he is, and Dhritarashtra also remained who he was. So,
Yeah,
of course, Dhritarashtra, we know, should have taken the right kind of guidance which he was showing. But Vidur, how did he protect himself?
okay,
In fact, both, if I can understand, that will be really helpful.
okay. Yes, yes. So next time we'll see how actually Dhritarashtra changed ultimately, because of the perseverance, because of the constant, advice of Vidura, ultimately Dhritarashtra changed. We'll discuss in detail next time. But we have to understand that Vidura was not taking their association. So the principle of association is very important to be understood. What is actually association? So in the association, it is not that people when they are traveling in a Mumbai local train with on the peak hours, So those who have traveled in local train, they know, it is like a free massage. So many people, especially when you are coming in the morning time, normally time now it is COVID going on. So after coming down from church gate, if someone gets down and he says, "Oh my God, I took such a very powerful bad association today," we don't tell that. Nobody will tell that. Association does not mean just being in physical proximity to somebody. Association means six things should be done. When we exchange the gifts, when we take gifts or give some gift, when we exchange food, sit together, eat food, and the most important is when we exchange our thoughts, when we exchange our hearts. That is the most important way to develop a association relationship. So Vidura, although he was constantly there, surrounded with all these vicious, wicked people, he was not taking their association. He was just giving good advice. And he was associating with Pandavas. He was associating with Krishna. He was absorbing himself in scriptures. He was reading. He was there with Bhishma, another great Mahajan. So therefore, we have to understand the principles of association. Association means revealing our heart. That is very, very important. You know, First we exchange things, then we exchange food, then we exchange thoughts. When the exchange of thoughts begin, that is a very, very prominent and powerful way to, affect us to develop a relationship with the person. So Vidura, he was not taking their association. He was just giving a good guidance. It was a role. It was the role which he was playing. So personally, he was such a great, virtuous, and at the same time greatly devoted personality. We'll discuss about Vidura's devotion in the next class. How he was not just a virtuous person, he was a greatly devoted person. Actually, many times we are in that situation where Vidura was, surrounded by people who are either irreligious or atheists. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita how to be in such a situation. He says, Padma Patra Ivam Bhasa. Padma Patra means just like a lotus leaf. Lotus leaf may be directly in touch with water, but it is not touched by water. So Krishna says, you have to be like, oh Arjuna, you have to be like a lotus leaf. Stay in the world, but don't become, like them. Don't be off the world. So we have to develop a consciousness like a lotus leaf. Don't get affected. How that will happen? When we absorb our mind so much with the spiritual thoughts, so much with the thoughts of Krishna, chanting by taking shelter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, that all these things won't trouble us, will not affect us. So Vidura was constantly doing it. That's how he was completely unaffected. He was not taking their association. So association means when we exchange thoughts, and when we associate with devotees, then we will not get affected when we go out in the world, because we cannot stay isolated. We have to meet with people for our official things, for our family purposes, with our relatives who may not be spiritually interested. We have to be with them. We cannot just say, no, no, I don't want to meet anybody. We have to be in the world. But in our personal practices, we have to make our consciousness so very strong, so very spiritual, that these things will not affect us. When people they give suggestions, oh, why you are becoming so much spiritual, it is not good, stay with us, come for party, why you are going to temple. Bhagavatam describes a very wonderful way how to deal with these people. So the one verse comes in seventh canto. This verse says, ज्ञातयः पितरः पुत्रा भ्रातरः सुहृदोपरे यद्वदन्ति यदिच्छन्ति चानुमोदेत निर्मम. Very interesting verse. This verse says, when your relatives, Gyataya means known personality, some known person comes, your pitra, fathers or parents or some elderly people, putra, your subordinates, they may say, oh, mummy, you are becoming so very inclined spiritually. Why you are going to temple? Just come with us. We'll go for a party or some, why you are going for a yatra? Just we'll go to some scenic place, tourist place. Putra, when putra, when subordinates, they say something, surida, seemingly well-wishers, they will say, oh, why you are becoming so much spiritually interested? Yad vadanti yad icchanti cha anumodet nirmama. You know what you should do? Whatever they say, you should acknowledge them. Yes, I think this is right, but don't follow it, because this is wrong. So just acknowledge their request. Yes, yes, that's all right. you know so in this way, you don't have to associate with them, reveal your heart, just do the needful. Basically, that's what Vidura was doing the needful. His duty was to give good advice to Dhritarashtra, and that's what he was doing. He was not going and revealing his heart. He was not talking about devotion. No, just doing the needful. That's how we have to maintain our spiritual life. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji, that's how maybe he was a Mahajan. So he was performing his dharma, and but internally completely connected to devotees. And like you said, he was a Mahajan. Like you are a Mahajan because you are perfect in performing your dharma and your devotion. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. I
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you for all these.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Amazing.
Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.